Off-season programs are starting to happen all over the NFL. In that Chiefs offensive program, Patrick Mahomes has been spotted throwing the football. Will he return early? Will that change anything for the Kansas City Chiefs? We're going to talk about that. On the back end of today's episode, we're also going to discuss the quarterback battles around the NFL that we must watch all off season long. Y'all know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first.
Welcome to your number one spot for all NFL news and content, NFL Central.
What's going on, football fans, and welcome back into another episode of NFL Central. So, man, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button if you are tuned in to what you like today. This is a place for all football fans, man. Lock in. We on our road to 1K. But hey, we know that a number of all-season programs are beginning for a number of teams around the NFL. A lot of storylines are going to come out of this week, what some people are seeing, some position battles that may be brewing, some competition that may be prevalent. But hey, we're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes. He is on track for what it looks like to actually be available at the start of the NFL season. Does that mean anything, though? We definitely got to talk about it, and we will. Now, the first thing is, I'm not going to count Patrick Mahomes out for making a or being available for week 1 of the NFL season. I think that seeing him at OTAs, throwing, he did have a big old brace on his knee that was, that he had to get repaired and go through his physical therapy. And we heard a number of reports and seen a number of clips to where Andy Reid has been on, record saying that he's been working his tail off to get back for the sake of the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm not going to rule out anything. I'm no doctor. But the biggest question is, does this change anything for the Kansas City Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes is ready week 1 versus week 4? I'm going to say it doesn't change anything. My initial thought was these guys are still going to be in contention to make the playoffs and potentially make a run through the playoffs. However, I can concede there are a number of questions that we have to ask ourselves. We have to ask ourselves a number of questions in regards to the Kansas City Chiefs. You got Rashee Rice still doing knucklehead stuff. You still got questions about an older guy in Travis Kelce and what he's going to be, how he's going to perform over this season. So I think there's still a number of questions that we're going to have to ask ourselves here, especially with the defensive side of the ball, with letting pretty much your entire defensive backfield go. Yes, you picked up some additional guys. Yes, you believe in Spags on how he can coach those young guys up, but that defense is relatively young outside of just a few players. Maybe that's a good thing. We'll have to wait and see when that time comes for sure. Now, the biggest thing that we have to talk about, and I think this could affect the outcome of the Kansas City Chiefs schedule, is their schedule. We have to really sit down and talk about this and see if they're loaded enough on offense to put up points and sound enough on the defensive side of the ball to make sure they can stop some of these teams. You know what I'm saying? They open up their season with the Broncos, then they go to the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Raiders, which are all winnable games for them. But it just gets a lot tougher in certain spots throughout the schedule. But those are typically how schedules are. And sometimes you might not like the little stretch of games that you have, but sometimes those build a lot of character. And I think that we're not really going to find out who the Kansas City Chiefs are to about week 6 or 7. That's how I like to gauge my NFL seasons. But you're looking at multiple stretches throughout the season to where you have some opportunities for some tough matchups. But then it's a couple stretches during the Chiefs season to where there's a little softer stretches. So in one of the parts of their season, they're going to go in back-to-back weeks versus the Chargers and the Seahawks and the Denver Broncos again. You have us a little breather, not necessarily a crazy one because we know how crazy the NFL can be, when they take on the New York Jets and the Atlanta Falcons, who may be a little better than they were last year. We're still gonna wait and see on that. And then you go through a stretch in late November that just gets crazy, man, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Started November 26th. They played the Buffalo Bills, then the Rams, then the Bengals, then the Patriots, then the Niners, then the Chargers. That is a brutal stretch for any football team. And it's not to say that they're not capable of at least going 500 or above 500. It's just that with so many questions surrounding the offense, I did like them. I did like the Kansas City Chiefs picking up Kenneth Walker. I think that's going to be a huge addition for them because they need a running game to help stabilize this offense, but it's still going to bring some larger questions on if those wide receivers can help the Kansas City Chiefs out to a degree that help them be able to consistently put up points and at the very least against some of these tough defenses they're going to face throughout the season. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we seen them make a number of mistakes last year. We seen guys not staying disciplined to the play, guys missing opportunities to make plays. And then we got to continuously bring up the elephant in the room, the decision to move off basically your entire defensive backfield. I'm not one to ever count out Patrick Mahomes because I think he's just that great. I'm not going to go out there and act as if he's the next Tom Brady. I'm not going to go out there and just fully discount him though. That's my position on it. I believe this doesn't change anything. I still believe to start this season before we see any games being played that they're going to be in playoff contention. That's not to say that they're absolutely going to get in, but it's definitely one of those things that I look at and say those guys have an opportunity because of the head coach and the quarterback. Obviously, playing in the AFC West is a tough deal. You have a new and improved Vegas Raiders, at least on paper. You have the Denver Broncos, who I believe if Bo Nix didn't break his ankle last year, they end up in the Super Bowl. And then you got the Los Angeles Chargers, who now brings in a better offensive coordinator who's going to be able to give Justin Herbert a lot of different things to work with, alongside with hopefully the growth of some of their wide receiver groups and hopefully a healthy season for Omari and Hampton coming out of the backfield. But those are some real challenges. Those are some real challenges. But I think that a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, they can overcome challenges because we've seen evidence and have evidence that they can and have done it in years past. Now we're going to switch on gears. Let me know how y'all feeling about that down below. Now we're going to switch gears and we're going to talk about the quarterback battles that we must watch over the course of this offseason, man. There are a number of battles that are going to be going on around the league. We have 5 total battles around the league that I pinpointed. And I think that one of them is going to be Fernando Mendoza versus Kirk Cousins. Another one is going to be Kyler Murray versus J.J. McCarthy. Another down in Atlanta, Michael Penix Jr. versus Tua Tagovailoa. In Cleveland, we have Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders. And then in Arizona, we have Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck, all battling it out for the starting quarterback position. Now, if you ask me, when it comes down to the first one mentioned, and that's Fernando Mendoza versus Kirk Cousins, I think that you should allow whatever. For that battle, I feel like it can go 2 ways. You can go out there and start Kirk Cousins and let him start the season off, give him about 4 to 6 weeks, and then put Fernando Mendoza in the game. I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea, but I also don't think the alternative is a bad idea either. Just start the damn kid in week 1. You went out there, you bolstered up your offensive line, you have Ashton Genty, and you added another running back to that in Mike Washington Jr. You have Brock Bowers, you added wide receiver help. So that's a solid foundation to start with, in my opinion. When we talk about Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy, I'm just going to keep it real and straight to the point. I don't think J.J. McCarthy has a chance. If he does have a chance, I think it's very, very slim. I think that whatever they do in Minnesota, they're going to try to push J.J. McCarthy with an addition of Kyler Murray. However, I just think the more talented guy is Kyler Murray. Obviously, there's a huge question mark behind that decision, and that is if Kyler Murray can stay healthy. But ultimately, I got Kyler Murray winning that job. When it comes down to Michael Penix Jr. versus Tua Tagovailoa, I'm not even gonna lie to you. I think Tua actually wins the job. That's just me personally. Maybe a bit hot takeish, but I think that right now he's getting a fresh start. He's going to be able to dissect and learn the offense a little bit at a faster pace than Michael Penix Jr. That is not to say it's going to happen. That's just my early prediction that Tua Tagovailoa will take over for the Atlanta Falcons at least early on in the season. We'll see what happens with that. In Cleveland, Deshaun Watson versus Shedeur Sanders. I like Shedeur. I think they're going to go with Deshaun Watson. That's just my personal opinion. I don't necessarily, I say may the best guy win out of any of these competitions, and I'm not afraid of being wrong. I just think that with some of those early reports that we heard out of Cleveland, that Deshaun Watson was more impressive and did things a little bit more better than Shedeur Sanders, which is expected. I think they're going to hand the keys over to him, and they're going to try to go out there and justify their decision for giving him such a bad contract. I think the best thing to do was to move forward and move with Shedeur Sanders. I just think that the Browns are going to play politics here and give the guy that they paid a lot of money to the nod to start the season. When it comes to Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, and Carson Beck for the Arizona job, I think it's going to come down to Jacoby Brissett with the caveat. They got to get the contract situation in order and get that in place. And last time I checked, Jacoby Brissett was not around because he wants more money, because how little he's getting paid and how much time he played last season for the Arizona Cardinals. I think that he will win the job if they get the contract situation right. If not, I believe they go with the veteran in Gardner Minshew unless Carson Beck can come out there and shine. But at the end of the day, those 5 matchups were something that we're absolutely going to have to keep our eyes on. And at the end of the day, it comes down to the best man winning. May the best man win. I have my selections. I'm not afraid of being wrong. And may the best guy win, man. Y'all let me know who y'all have winning those quarterback battles for those respective teams with the Cardinals, the Browns, the Falcons, the Vikings, and the Raiders. Let me know down below. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode. Before you get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well, man. We appreciate y'all. Make sure you always love football, and y'all already know we're going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace.
This has been a presentation